lot of people, especially in the Dutch community or the channel, I'm Dutch, so they're asking me a lot of questions like, what exactly is pachinko, for example? Maybe you can give an example or can explain about what that game is and how it will look like for our holders.
Okay, makes
Is
sense.
it
Makes
not
sense.
exactly the same?
All right, all right. I think that's a good segue to actually get into the depth of it. Uh, it would be a pretty long answer though, so I'll I'll try to keep it engaging. I hope I can actually keep it engaging. But let me try. Let me try to give it in a three different segments, and then what I'll do is that I'll try to club all those three segments together to formulate a answer which might you might be able to relate. So when we are talking about pachinko and gaming, there's a lot of other things that we actually saw right in the Discord, and the people are asking about about betting, whether it would be what would be the betting concept, what are like are we building a casino, pachinko is a new name for a casino, or many such things. uh, so let's actually clarify all these things one by one. And I'll apologize that the answer might be a little bit longer, but if you guys can, bear with me, I'll try to make everything come together eventually. So let's start with betting, right? Let's start with the whole concept of betting. Uh, betting typically accounts for something where you are actually putting a sort of a delta amount, and you are there is an activity which is going on, but you cannot control any output of that particular activity by doing any engagement, and but just based on the sheer luck, whatever the output is going to come in, if that fits your bill, then you are actually going to be getting an exponential return to it, right? I mean, that's a typical mindset of the betting. But in our scenario, let's actually break it down a little bit further. I mean, this is like a layman's term, but when we try to build something, right? When we, let's say, try to build a betting game, how that works. So let me give you a very very simple scenario, and from there we'll try to extrapolate that scenario into different patterns so that you'll get that what I'm actually talking about. So let's take a very simple scenario of a coin flip, right? I mean, you have seen that there are multiple variations of the same actually is popping up, but how do you actually build a simple coin flip, right? So the coin flip has a 50-50% chance of win and lose. So the probability actually counts to 50%. But then how do you actually build a game? How do you gamify that, right? I'll give you a very simple model. There are multiple different models out there, but let's take a base model for our conversation, and we'll further evolve it, right? So let's say that if I want to build a 50% chance based betting model, what we'll do is that we'll actually create a liquidity pool, and actually to start with that particular base amount, let's say I actually put $10,000 into it, right? And for us to not completely dilute the whole liquidity pool, we'll actually create a betting cap into it, right? Say the 1% is the betting cap, so that actually translates into around $100. So what happens is that because it's a 50-50 chance, the more volume you are able to get into the game, right? The game would, because of the probabilistic, calculations, the game would always be swinging at the median. That means if 1,000 people are actually playing it, then around 500 would be winning, 500 would be losing. So eventually, the better volumes that it will bring in, the better it will stick to its median. That means the liquidity pool would actually be sticking to around $10,000 from where you're actually starting, because that's how the probabilistic aspect will actually work out. Now, so for a gaming enabler, like a gaming company or gaming project, it becomes comparatively very easy if you think about it, right? All we need to do is that set that up in a betting model, set the liquidity pool, create that thing, and then let everybody come and actually engage and do that. And we can actually just take a, what do you call it, a gaming fee, and that can be as low as, let's say, 1% or something, right? The more volume you get in, the more returns of that particular gaming fee is what is going to be making you your side of the house, or rather the house revenue would actually come from that. Now you can further evolve this particular pattern, right? I actually spoke about a 50% probability of the winning, but you can always, so that's a stable pool, right? That's a concept of stable pool. You can always get into different gaming patterns where the probability you can actually tweak or change the probability of the winning or losing. Let's say you actually take it to 60% of the time that the gamer would actually win. So that means you are actually getting into a deflationary pool, deflationary liquidity pool. Now, in the same way, if you actually get into a place where the gamer is actually losing 40% of the time, that means you are actually getting into an inflationary liquidity pool. So these are certain other additional concepts that any gaming house actually builds in to further evolve and create their revenue models and everything else. But what I'm trying to get at is that enabling a betting model, I should not be underplaying that, but to us, it is actually probabilistically, if you put it, it's not that difficult to put it, right? Because money makes money kind of a concept is actually comparatively easy to implement out there. So let's put a pin on it, right? Let's put a pin on the betting concept, the whole betting concept. Now let's actually look into the second segment, which is a play to earn segment, right? The play to earn segment is the segment where you have seen thousands of games now actually popping up, right? I mean, starting from Axie Infinity to so many others that are actually coming in and they are actually tagging themselves as play to earn. Sorry, before I continue, just a quick check. Kip, I'm not making you sleep or something, right? I am.
No, for me it's really interesting, but
Okay.
uh, I'm not sure how the others are. Maybe somebody wants to
Okay.
has a question already, or maybe
So,
spice things up a little bit.
right. So, why don't we do this? Why don't I actually go through this particular segment where I'm at least able to make these 3 points and then connect them together? But if you want to jump in between that, I'm like you are losing the track or you're not able to understand certain thing, just pop in, and I'll try to elaborate those a little bit more, uh, and try to see that how we can actually keep this interesting because it does sound sometimes that I'm getting into a monologue. Nevertheless, so let.
Yeah. And also, if you have a question and you cannot open your mic for some reason, just put it in the general chat, and I'll call it out for you
Awesome,
if
awesome.
that's easier.
That will be great. That will be great, Kip. So you keep me in check, right? I mean, you make sure that I'm also I'm
Yeah,
also
man, it's
actually
okay.
okay. Awesome. So I was talking about the P2E, right? Now P2E, that's the other segment that I actually wanted to touch upon. Now the P2E segment, uh, it's again, it has been getting a lot of bad names also at many segments. It had been a very good, it had actually a very good start, last year. But there are also not certain great models which has been actually put in out there, which is also bringing down the whole P2E concept. And I'll try to explain why. To understand a good P2E, we have to understand that what are the inflows which are coming and what are the outflows which are there, right? So the inflow for any gaming house, it would be, it goes without saying that the gaming fee would be definitely a inflow. The in-game purchases will definitely be an inflow. There are certain things which I'll not count in as of now, which is like the NFT revenue, the initial seed money, the VC rounds and all that. I'll not keep that in track, but let's actually keep it very simple, right? The game fees and the in-game purchases. The outflows can be basically if you are actually doing a P2E, that means you are enabling somebody to earn something, right? That means you are giving back as part of the game rewards somebody to bag certain dollar figures, right? It can be direct or indirect. The other one is that you are also, because you have to build a community, you have to go through the whole engagement aspect of it. There are projects which are doing for all good reasons is the revenue redistribution, but that also goes from the house point of view, right? So that is also your outflow. These are the two very tangible outflows. There are many others like the tech things, the dev, and everything else. I'm not going to be getting into detail of how the program and the project actually needs to be managing their own the cash flow and the housekeeping and everything else. Let's keep that aside. But a very simple, very binary level, uh, it's basically the win amounts and the revenue distribution. If we can just take these two models together and then try to understand why there are so many P2E which are actually not doing that great, it's very simple. as long as you don't have a right and appropriate balance between your inflows and the outflows, your model will always be unsustainable model. So what happens is that there are a lot of P2E. They get the initial seed money, they get initial, inflows of their dollar figures, and then they start doing a giveaways. They start doing obnoxious giveaways as part of their gaming, wins or something, which immediately translate into a non-sustainable model because you can't sustain that. You don't have that bigger of a back to actually sustain it. They, if somebody is very upfront and saying upfront itself that this is part of a promotion, if this is part of something that we will do for a only shorter duration to increase our what do you call it, the player account or something of that sort, and come out very transparent about all these things, I'm pretty okay, to be honest with you. I don't have any realms with it because everybody have to do the marketing side of it. So the marketing side, I have no issues. But what happens is that if somebody mismarket it and try to put it as a regular thing, that means you are luring people by disguising something else which is absolutely non-sustainable. And that's the reason that a lot of P2Es get certain bad names. Now, let's keep that aspect aside. Let's actually try to think that what are the good P2E models. One of the very easy and simple to understand P2E model, which is very sustainable, is actually a multiplayer intra game revenue distribution model. I might be using some tough words here, but it's very simple actually. Let's say that for a single game, you are inviting five people in the lobby, and the five people will club together and they will have to play a game, right? So what happens is that you take an initial, seeding amount from those people. Let's say $10 each. You got $50 in your pocket for the game. Every single game would have the $50, and then when the players are playing, if you are actually putting one player as the win, then he can bag the $50. So it's a good model. It's comparatively a good model as long as you get these many people who are always engaging and playing. One of the issues with this particular model is that if you have the starting point that at least five people have to get in, and you are sitting in the lobby and then you can't get five people, because you always have to understand that this is like 24 into 7 kind of a world right now in the metaverse that we are living in. So every time everybody is actually coming in and they need that five people, minimum five people, to actually get in and play. So if your game is like blowing up like Axie Infinity, or for that matter in the real world like Fortnite or something, where always there's a huge lobby and they're actually going in. I'm not going to be touching on the bots, by the way. They are called enabler bots, but that's a separate model altogether. So what happens is that when you have this five people and they go in, as long as you always get these five people, this is a sustainable model, and this is a lucrative model. But this is a very difficult model unless and until you get the right volume in for that kind of an ecosystem, right? But at least I can actually give the full marks to that. The second one, which is actually a way tougher model, is basically when you are playing against the house. When I'm saying against the house, that means basically if we are enabling a single player game, that means they are playing against a house. So what happens in that particular model is that you have to ensure that the person is, so we are engaging like the AI is engaging with the person one to one, and then still there should be a very transparent and very adaptive and very logically implementable model out there, where we can also provide certain rewards. We are not going into a deflationary model, but we are also creating the engagement intact with it. So this is, honestly speaking, is actually one of the toughest one to crack in. And this is exactly where I keep talking about that a lot of maths actually come into picture, right? Mathematics comes into the picture, and this is exactly why it comes into the picture. So I think I spoke a lot about it. So let's actually put a pin on it again, because the next concept is actually value creation and the value adaptation kind of a model, which is also very important for us to understand. And then we'll club all these, three patterns together and try to understand that what we are trying to build. So, so again, a quick check. Kip Cop, I'm not making you sleep, right?
No, you're not making me sleep. No.
Oh,
Maybe in the meantime, one of the people that joined, we get quite a big group already. I see. Maybe
awesome.
one the guys that has a question, or girls, maybe they have a question or want to ask something.
Okay.
I see Moon is typing. Maybe he wants to
Okay. So
ask
so
something.
type in all the questions, man. I'll try to see that you
Mike,
video.
open your mic. I'm
Awesome.
writing everything down.
Awesome, awesome.
Just
So just type in the questions and we'll actually start picking it up and then we'll open up for, a direct questioning. So let me get into the third segment then, right? I mean, how are we cross imagining it? But before we actually start about how we are cross imagining it, let's actually talk about we, the quote unquote the we. So who are we? I think we have actually given a short introduction earlier also, but let me actually elaborate on that a little bit more. So by profession we are technology engineers and technology professionals actually. I Everybody in our team is 15 plus years in the technology. Like I'm more than 19 plus, and I've actually been like a lot of different roles. I've been head of architecture, I've been head of integrations for corporates, and I have right now I'm actually heading a complete technology development for a big big international company. I'll not get into too much detail into it, but what I'm trying to say is that we are very aware of what our strengths are, right? And we are very conscious about those things. So what are we good at? We are very good at implementing a solution end to end. We are very very good at logic engines and the rule engines. We are very very good at building a first sorting out the business use cases and deriving the value proposition out of that particular use cases, and then create a tangible solution within the IT landscape to take it forward. Now, again, I don't want to talk further about it because I kind of sometimes sound like I'm bloating ourselves and all that. I really don't want to do that. I would let our work do the talking. So, but I just wanted to give the context that what we are really thriving at, right? The other thing is that when we actually chose this particular model, where we are actually going to be building a lot of card games, a lot of board games, the visual aspect of it, right? The visual implementation, it is not one of the earth shattering, one of the most difficult thing to actually put in. You guys have actually seen a lot of these visual inputs are being built throughout the world, and it is very easy to build. But what is not easy is to actually create the logic behind it with the NFT incorporation, and create the whole the use cases end to end, implementing and taking that into a financial model. So just to give you one more plugin here, previously we actually wanted to build DeFi space, and then there are one very fundamental issue with it, right? That if you don't create a right value proposition to any business or any financial ecosystem, if you don't have the right value proposition, and I can let me be very crude and blunt here, every financial institution which don't have that value proposition, it is nothing but an MLM business, right? It's a pyramid scheme. If they can't cross associate a right revenue and the value proposition to doing anything. Let me give you the different example from the DeFi space, right? We have actually done previously a lot of experience, and we actually digged our hands a little bit into that. We have never actually released anything, but done a lot of studies, and we had a lot of papers that we tried to write. So what happens is that let's take Aave for an example, right? I mean, Aave is very successful. Now, the reason Aave is successful is that there is a value proposition to it, right? When it is actually giving you certain percentage to whatever you're actually depositing it, it is ensuring that internally it is actually cross generating a higher delta revenue for its own self, and out of it is actually giving you a cut, right? So the money needs to come from somewhere from where you will actually get a cut. That's the basic fundamentals, right? But then you have always seen that in the DeFi space there's always this degen DeFi, this and that. I've like almost burned my hand with Iron Finance, to be honest with you, in Polygon, in one of those days when it got like bloated up exponentially, and every like we were getting every day for $100 we were getting a return of $7 to $8 per day. On the fifth day, the whole thing got collapsed, and it was a huge bank run. But then these are the things which really teaches you that what are the degen things they are doing. I mean, if they're actually putting certain things that, okay, this is a high API, this high API, that, you go and dig in the code, you'll know that these are like, after certain cycles, this will actually go away. So if the people who are joining late, invariably it has been designed that they would be rugged off, right? I mean, that's a typical, what do you call it, the typical pyramid scheme, right? So we completely want to get out of that, right? We wanted to get into something where you have a inherent value proposition already built in, and how you can create a financial ecosystem on top of it, so that there is a sustainability model actually comes into the picture. So that was one of the thought process through which we started thinking of different options. Now, while that was happening, the gaming world always engaged us. We always felt that there are so many good models that we can actually cross replicate, but we also wanted to play on our own strength. One thing that we always understood from the way that we always worked in our life cycle is that if you create a system in which the transaction value is very small for the end user, but if you can cross replicate that from the volume play, then the volume multiplier would actually give you a very good tangible output, right? And pachinkos, when we actually, and we are very blessed that we are actually living here in Japan. I'm here for more than, how many, 17 years now? Yeah, 17, yeah, 17 plus years. So one of the things that we have always seen is the pachinkos out here, right? Pachinko is completely legalized out here. I'll not get into that aspect of why it is legal or not. I'll give you the why, the papers for that. But the main important thing is the kind of volume play that they actually come in with, right? And their games are freaking simple. Their games are simple. They play with the volume. You know why they are successful? Because while people actually want to win or something of that sort, but the most important thing that we all have to understand is that people want to play. Very, very simple. If you can't create a value proposition which engages somebody to be connected with it for a reason, not only for a farcical getting a return, I would become like this billionaire, millionaire, or something. No, it's very, very simple inherently. It is, I like it. Very simple. Now, that particular one word, if you try to put as small of a dollar figure as possible for that particular person to like something, that's exactly where you are winning, right? Let's say that we create something where a person is actually putting just $1, right? And he's having a good time. I mean, for that particular person to put $1 will not be such a huge money, perspective, if he's not trying to understand that, okay, am I having fun or not? Am I actually getting into certain things where a value proposition is associated with it or not? So that is the kind of model that we are trying to actually get into. So now I have actually spoken a lot about it. So now let me tie in all the knots here, right? So the first thing is that we are trying to get the ideas and the impressions of the way the ecosystem out here in pachinkos actually work. We are not going to be building one-on-one relationship with the pachinko games. We are going to be focusing a lot on the cross implementation and cross adaptation of the NFTs. Now, this is one part which I actually left out, is that why we chose NFT based tweaking to the whole game. That's actually a big topic, but again, I don't want to get into a huge monologue, as you can very easily see that I have a tendency of getting into monologue. So that part, let me leave that part, right? That why we are building these kind of games where every NFTs will actually bringing a different flavor to it, right? And then it is changing a lot of probabilities to it. The reason that we actually doing it is because nobody else is actually building this engine. These engines need certain logic, certain very niche logics to be implemented, right? And it needs a lot of mathematics, a lot of churning. Like right now, today itself, I actually ran through around 20,000 different regression test beds just to get certain data points to figure out that what are the right combinations that we have to put in. Anyways, so I'm going to be now tying the knots, right? So the P2E, we really want to actually build something where the P2E engine, P2E part is the one that we nail first, right? We want to actually create a proposition where a basic mechanism, it's okay if the house is not making, money left, right, and center. It's fine if we are only making certain tangible amount, but it needs to be a positive outflow. That's the only thing that we are looking for. The amount can be simple, amount can be small, but it have to be positive. So that's the first part that we are trying to tackle here, to actually get into that model of P2E, which eventually becomes a self-sustainable model. The second is about the betting aspect. See, as I told you, implementing the betting aspect on top of a P2E model, which once we crack it, putting betting or not putting betting, that would be very easily enabled by us, right? I mean, it is easily enableable. But we also have to look into that, which are the spaces we are in. There are multiple concerns, honestly speaking, even with me, in terms of how much of the betting concepts that we should actually put in, because I'm very, very, conscious of the fact that we are not looking for something which is like a, a rocket flying above and then taking a blast off or something. We are really looking for something where we are, before we go up, we go down. That means we are creating our roots very, very strong, and then build on that particular roots to climb up somewhere, where when we are actually climbing up, our roots are always ensuring that we are actually stick to the ground and we are not shaken up, right? So if you actually go through the betting model, you would see that there are a lot of challenges they will face in. They sometime be banned here, they sometime will be banned there. Are they getting the proper licenses? As simple as, are the right 18 plus people are actually getting into their gaming, or is it like under 18s are also getting in, right? I mean, these are many things that have to be figured out, and we would be actually figuring it out. I'm actually a big believer of zero knowledge proof, right? I mean, ZK proof is one of my favorite models, uh, but like minimalistic information but still qualifies you, that how you can actually do the validation. Anyways, so keeping that aspect aside, what I'm actually getting is that enabling a betting model would be very easy, and we can do that where, let's say, in certain planets, right? We will be getting into the desolate planets. They have this ecosystem built in, they will be open to betting and everything else. Okay, fine, we'll enable that. But then tomorrow we will be going to, let's say, what do you call it, let's say the cactus world, right? Cactus world is actually focused more on the younger generation. They don't want any betting things to be enabled. Fantastic, we'll still create our house out there and then disable all the bettings, right? And then it's a pure play to earn model, pure P2E model, and then they can just work with it. There can be a third model where we are not even giving them anything, right? There is not even a play to earn, it's just play and enjoy, and we will not even take gaming fees for that. I mean, it can be certain things which are social enablements, right? So we are very good in carving out different model once we are able to crack down our base model. So that's what we are actually looking at. And sorry, so I yeah, connecting that and then play to e, the value proposition is where I actually really want to focus on. The value proposition does not only drive from a game, right? It is actually a combination of everything. Like, actually look at our DAO, right? For that matter. I mean, the kind of people who are hanging out in the DAO, if you ask me, if I'm actually have to buy, a couple of NFTs and I can actually hang out with the people like that, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, you should actually, guys, if you are not hanging out with our DAO members, I mean, they are freaking awesome, right? Even that has a value proposition. If you actually go and look at different NFTs, that how why they are actually popular, right? There are so many NFTs which are doing nothing but just create a DAO, and then there are people that are actually going and chilling out there. There is Chilled Kong, right? I mean, Chilled Kong is an amazing project. They go and they just freaking chill out right out there. There are different patterns of value propositions that you can actually build in. Now, the last part, which I will just give you a hint and then I'll actually stop there, is that we will always play with our strengths. Everything that we are building, we would be creating wrappers around it. We would be creating in a model which can be transposed as a service to be enabled for any other ecosystem that is needed, because that's our long term dream. We want to create, we want to transpose this into a service enabler into the new age world that we are actually moving in. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that's actually the end game, because we are technologists. We really want to carve out a lot of technologies out here and then try to see in the future, in the real world, that how we can cross implement it. And then even before that, even within our ecosystems of NFTs and the gamings and everything else, there would be a lot of need of a lot of solutions that we would already be doing certain things, and it might also be some existing solution, but we can wrap it and package it give a better service to whatever the solution that we are actually giving in, and try to market that as a, as a better value propositions. So even those things are there on the pipeline. Again, I don't want to shill or talk more about that, because I don't like to talk about something if we have not put down on the paper proper mechanism for it and proper value proposition identified, and then I would like to propose that, or rather present it. But I'm just giving you the thoughts, that those are one of the very key thoughts that is also goes in our head whenever we are actually trying to solution anything. So that's a very very small answer, Kip Cop. Be aware if you ask any other question to me.